where we are actually using that cash in the business. So that would be applications or payment of cash and cash equivalents under operating, investing as well as financing activities of the enterprise. What do we do actually when the assets have increased? We will add. But here we have to minus. Prepaid expenses is an asset. So current asset. So it has increased. So current assets have increased. So what you have to do? Minus. Hello everyone, I am Harshita, lecturer, Department of Commerce, Vidhyaashram PU College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. My dear students, today we are in the last chapter of your accountancy syllabus, that is your cash flow statement, and this is the 6th chapter from your part B. So already we have discussed few of the chapters. So let us see what is this cash flow statement. Okay, so we shall begin the session quickly. So coming to your cash flow statement, so this is one of the financial statement which is prepared at the end of the financial year to know the cash inflows as well as cash outflows of the business. So as a word itself tells, cash flow, which means that cash inflow as well as cash outflow. So under cash flow statement, we will record only the cash transaction which have come into the business, that is cash inflow. It is also called as cash receipts, and cash outflow which has gone out from the business. Okay, so that is your applications of the cash where you have used the cash from the business. Okay, so let us see what is this cash flow statement. So a cash flow statement is a statement showing inflow, that is receipts, and outflows. So I have told you the main intention of preparing this statement is to know the cash inflows as well as outflows, that is receipts and payments of cash during a particular period. So you might get a question, what is this cash flow statement? So it is a statement where we are going to record all the cash inflows, that is receipts, and cash outflows, that is payment of a business organization in a particular period. In other words, it is a summary of sources and applications of cash. Sources means what? How we are getting the cash for the business, as well as application, where the cash has been used. Okay, so sources and applications of cash during a particular span of time, which means that sources means cash inflow and application means cash outflow. Okay, so in a particular period of time, how the cash is being used in the business. So we are recording in a statement which is called as what? Cash flow statement. It analyzes the reasons for changes in balance of cash between the two balance sheet dates. So thereby, by preparing the cash flow statement, we'll come to know what is the exact changes in the cash flows when you compare to your previous balance sheet. The term cash here stands for cash as well as cash equivalents. So what I mean by cash and cash equivalents, the amount or the value what a cash carries, the same value if any other items that carries is called as what? Cash and cash equivalents. So cash and cash equivalents means what? Suppose if you have a check of rupees 10,000, which means that it is equivalent to cash of rupees 10,000. Correct? So cash as well as cash equivalents. A cash flow statement includes only those items which affect the cash. So as a word itself tells us, we are going to record only the transaction which are affecting through cash. So it may be cash inflow as well as outflow of cash. A cash flow statement can be for past or can be projected for the future period. So by preparing this cash flow statement, we can expect or we can forecast what would be the cash flow in the future also, as well as your comparison of cash flow statement from previous year to the current year to the next year can also be done through this preparation of cash flow statement. Now moving on to the next concept, objectives of cash flow statement. So let us see what are the main objectives of preparing this cash flow statement. So the first one is to ascertain the sources, that is receipts of cash and cash equivalents from operating, investing as well as financing activities. So there are main three activities which you are going to record in your cash flow statement, that is operating, investing as well as financing activities. So your first objective itself is, so where do we get or how do we get cash from these three activities? So how much cash will get from operating activities, financing activities as well as investing activities. So that is to ascertain the sources or receipt of cash from these activities of the enterprise. Now coming to the second one, so the first objective was from where do we get cash? So from which activities we will get cash for the business. And the second one is to ascertain the applications or the payment. So where we are going to use that cash in the business. So whether it has been invested in investing activities, operating activities, or in the financing activities, where we are actually using that cash in the business. So that would be applications or payment of cash and cash equivalents under operating, investing as well as financing activities of the enterprise. Now coming to the third one, to ascertain the net change in cash and cash equivalents, that is the difference between sources and applications under the three activities between the date of two consecutive balance sheet. So your third objective is that, so your first objective was from where do we get cash? So whether it is from operating, investing as well as financing activity. And the second one is application. Where do we actually make the payment? Whether in the operating activities, investing activities or in the financing activities. Now coming to the third one, when compared to your receiving of cash as well as from compared to your payment of cash. So you can compare those two. Okay, so to ascertain the net change. So what is the actual change? Whether your receipts is more or whether your payments in a particular balance sheet is more. So that comparison can be done. So in a particular year itself, so what is the amount of receipts? Whether the cash receipts is more than cash payment or whether the cash payment in that particular year is more than cash receipt, such comparison can be made. Now coming to your fourth one, to highlight the major activities that have provided cash, that have used cash during a particular period and to show their effect on overall cash balance. So which is a major source where we have invested cash and which is a major source where we are getting the cash. So that can also be ascertained by preparation of cash flow statement. Suppose the more cash is being involved in the operating activities or whether the cash receipt is more under investing activities. So such type of comparison can be made. So which is a major source where we have invested as well as where we can get cash from the business as well as where the cash outflow is more from the business. So such comparison can also be made by the preparation of cash flow statement. So hope you have understood these are the objectives of preparing cash flow statement. Now moving on to the next one, uses of cash flow statement. So the first use is that useful for short-term financial planning. Of course, when you prepare a cash flow statement, you will come to know what is a net cash inflow as well as cash outflow. At the same time, what is a net cash balance in the business so that you can plan for short-term financial planning. And the second one is useful in preparing the cash budget. Of course, by seeing the cash flow statement, you can have the cash budget also. You can prepare for the cash budget also. Next, comparison with the cash budget. Of course, when you compare to your previous year, current year as well as next year, what would be the cash budget based on the availability of cash in the business. Next, study of the trend of cash receipts and cash payments. So whether your cash receipts is more or whether your cash payment is more. So such trend analysis can be done by preparation of cash flow statement. And the fifth one is, it explains the deviations of cash from earnings. So what would be the deviations of cash from earnings? And the next is helpful in ascertaining cash flow from various activities separately. So you can ascertain the cash from various activities, like there are three main activities under cash flow statement: operating activities, investing activities as well as financing activities. So by preparing this cash flow statement, you will be able to ascertain cash flow from various kinds of activities. Next, helpful in making dividend decisions. Of course, based on the availability of cash inflows as well as outflows in the business, you can decide the dividend to the shareholders also. Next one is test for the managerial decisions. Of course, based on the availability of cash inflows as well as outflows of the business, management can take appropriate decisions. Next, helpful to the outsiders also. So it helps the creditors, it helps the financial institutions of the organization. So such outsiders will be helpful by knowing the preparation of cash flow statement. So these are the uses or advantages of cash flow statement. Coming to the next one, limitations of cash flow statement. Let us see what are the limitations quickly. So the first one is not suitable for judging the liquidity. Okay, so you can't judge the liquidity directly by the preparation of cash flow statement. Possibility of window dressing is also there here. It ignores non-cash transaction. As the word itself tells us, under cash flow statement, we are going to record only the cash transaction. So non-cash transactions are ignored here. It ignores accrual concept of accounting. So under accrual concept, we are going to record the transaction when it is actually incurred, not when we are actually going to receive or actually going to make the payment. So it ignores the accrual concept of accounting also. No substitute for an income statement. So your cash flow statement is not a substitute for the income statement and historical in nature. So under cash flow statement, we are going to record the transactions which are historical in nature or already which has been occurred. Okay, so these are the certain limitations of cash flow statement. Now let us see the classifications of cash flow statement. I have told you your cash flow statement has been divided into three major activities: operating activities, investing activities, as well as financing activities. And at the same time, it is a very important question. They'll ask you, write any two activities under cash flow statement for 2 marks. Okay, so this is an important question once again. So they'll ask you, write any two activities under cash flow statement. So you can write any of the two here. So cash flow from operating activities, cash flow from investing activities, and cash flow from financing activities. Okay, so based on this itself, your last chapter weightage will be, you will be having 2 marks question. At the same time, you will be having 1 mark question and 6 marks question. Okay, so you don't have a 12 marks problem here. So you will have a 6 marks question. Most of the time, they have asked question from operating activities and financing activities for 6 marks. Okay, so we shall solve problems relating to these activities under individual sessions. Okay, so in today's session, we shall learn about cash flow from operating activities. So what is this operating activities and what are the problems they have asked in your previous year based on operating activities? Okay, so moving on to the session, that is cash flow from operating activities. Now let us see what is this operating activities. So under cash flow statement, under operating activities, we are going to record the transactions which have occurs or which are occurring daily in our business transactions. So these are the business transactions which occurs daily in the activities of the business. So these are called as what? Operating activities. So here there are few examples here so that you can clearly understand what is this operating activities. And this operating activity is a main activity of the business organization because it occurs daily in the business. So it is a main activities of the business like payment of interest, dividend payment. So all these are regularly occurs in the business. So these are termed as what? Operating activities. So let us see what is this cash flow from operating activities. So these are the activities that constitute the primary or main activities of an enterprise. So which is the main activity of an enterprise? That is operating activity. Examples of cash flow arising from operating activities are, so these are the few examples. So just if you know this, you can easily solve the problem. Okay, so the first one is cash receipts from the sale of goods and rendering of services. Of course, daily we will purchase as well as sell goods and services, correct? Next is cash receipts from royalty, fees, commissions and other revenues. So these payments will always be there. Correct? So we will pay the royalties, we will pay the salaries, we will pay the wages, we will pay the fees. Correct? So these are all operating activities. Cash receipts from debtors and bills receivables and cash payment for purchase of goods and services. So these are the payments here once again. Cash payments to creditors and bills receivable. Cash payment of wages, salary and other payments to the employees. So these are all receipts here and these are all payments. Okay, so from here these are all payments. Okay, so cash payment of wages, salaries and other payments to the employees. Cash payment or refund of income tax unless they can be specifically identified with financing and investing activities. So these are just examples of operating activities. So time being, you remember operating activities are the main activities of the business enterprise where it occurs daily in an organization. For example, purchase of goods, selling of goods, payment of wages, payment of salaries, receiving of royalties, receiving of interest. So all these activities that occurs daily in the business organization, and it has to be recorded, which is measured in terms of cash in a particular statement, which is called as what? Operating activities. That is cash flow from operating activities. So hope you are clear about the meaning as well as examples of operating activities. Now let us see a 6 marks problem, very easy problem. Anand Limited arrived at a net income. So this is a net income they have given, rupees 5 lakh for the year ended 31st-3/2023. Depreciation for the year was rupees 2 lakh. So they have given us depreciation. There was a profit of rupees 50,000. So 50,000 on asset sold, which was transferred to the statement of profit and loss. Trade receivable increased during the year rupees 40,000 and trade payable also increased by rupees 60,000. Compute the cash flow statement from operating activities by the indirect method. Now what you have to remember in the sense, normally, so we have certain items to be remembered here. So suppose there is any increase in asset. Suppose there is any increase in asset, then you have to minus. Suppose if there is any increase in asset, you have to minus. Suppose if there is any decrease in asset, then you have to add. In the same way, it is reverse for the liability. If there is any increase in liability, so you have to add. If there is any decrease in liability, you have to minus. Okay, so the easy thing you have to remember is, so you have prepared the final accounts of the concern, where depreciation, normally what do you do with depreciation? You will minus. But under operating activities, you will add, because the net income they have already given. So whatever the amount that has to be deducted, you have to minus. Whatever the amount you have to add it, that you have to deduct here. So only that much you remember and you can easily solve the problem here. Now if you see here, they have given net income, that is net profit before tax, which will solve the problem. So first write the heading. What is the name of the person? Anand Limited. So we'll write the heading Anand Limited. Next, they have asked us to prepare a statement. So cash flow statement from operating activities. So we'll write the heading cash flow statement from operating activities. Cash flow statement from operating activities. Next, they have given net income rupees 5 lakh. So this is net profit before tax. So your columns are too simple. You will have particulars and amount column. So net profit before tax, how much? 5 lakh. So this is 5 lakh. Again, they have given for the year ended 31st-3/2023. Depreciation they have given. So normally what do we do with depreciation? Minus. But here you have to add. Okay. So add depreciation. So you will write plus. So what is the depreciation? 2 lakh. Depreciation 2 lakh. Next, there was a profit of 50,000. So normally what do we do with profit? Add. But here you have to minus. So next is profit. So this is what? Minus. So minus profit, how much? 50,000. Next, we have on asset sold, which was transferred to the statement of profit and loss. Trade receivable increased. Now asset have increased. So what do we do actually when the assets have increased? We will add. But here we have to minus. So assets have increased how much? 40,000. So how do you write? Trade receivable. Increase in trade receivable. So increase in trade receivable. So this is current asset. Increase in current asset. So when it is increase in current asset, so what you have to do? Minus. So how much? 60,000. So increase in trade receivable is how much? 40,000. So minus 40,000. So increase in current asset. So what you have to do? You have to minus. Next, Trade payable. Trade payable is what? Current liability, correct? So, increase in current liability. So, what you have to do? You have to add. So, how much? 60,000. Increase in trade payable. So, this is what? Current liability. So, increase in current liability you have to add. So, add. So, that is 60,000. Now, you have to calculate. So, 5 lakh plus 2 lakh plus minus 50,000 plus minus 40,000 plus 60,000. So, we'll get 7 lakh 50,000. So, the answer is positive. So, how do you write? Cash inflow from operating activities. So, cash inflow from operating activities. Cash inflow from operating activities, that is 7,50,000. Suppose if the amount was minus, then it is cash outflow from operating activities. So, hope you are clear about this problem. A simple problem, just you have to understand and write the solution. So, you have written this much. So, where we have started with net profit before tax, that is how much? 5 lakh. So, depreciation normally what we will do? We will minus, but here we have to add 2 lakh. Profit normally we will add, but here you will minus here. Next, increase in current asset. So, you have to add actually, but here under operating activities you will minus, because we have taken the net profit before tax. So, it will be everything which will be reverse. Next, increase in current liability. So, you will add. Now, let us see when you total how much you will get. Okay. So, here 5 lakh plus 2 lakh. So, it will be 7 lakh. 7 lakh plus 60,000. 7 lakh 60,000 minus here 50,000 plus 40,000, that is minus 90,000. So, we will get 6 lakh 70,000. Now, the answer is positive. So, it is cash inflow from operating activities. Cash inflow from operating activities. So, hope you are clear about it. So, this is a cash flow statement from operating activities. So, you can solve one more problem so that you can clearly understand. Now, go through a similar type of problem. Excel Limited earned a net profit of rupees 4 lakh. So, similar type of problem but with a different amount here. For the year ending 31st-3/2023, depreciation they have given. Depreciation was charged at rupees 1 lakh. So, normally what do we do with depreciation? Minus. But here you have to add. Then there was a loss. So, loss you will minus, but here you have to do plus. So, you have to add here on the sale of old machinery which was transferred to statement of profit and loss. During the year, inventories were decreased. So, inventories is what? It is a current asset. So, decrease in current asset. So, what you have to do? You have to add. Decrease in current asset. So, that is 50,000, and current liability were decreased. Current liability is also decreased. So, here what you have to do? Minus rupees 30,000. Compute cash flow from operating activities by indirect method. So, hope you are clear. Similar type of problem we shall solve now. So, you will start with the name of the person. So, that is name of the company, Excel Limited. Now, cash flow from operating activities or cash flow statement. Cash flow statement from operating activities. So, you will start with the net profit. So, let us assume it is net profit before tax. Net profit before tax. So that is 4 lakh. Next, they have given depreciation charged. Okay, so depreciation normally we will minus, but here you have to add. So depreciation, first one, depreciation. So add, amount is 1 lakh. And the next one is there was a loss. So loss on sale of old machinery. Second is loss on sale of old machinery. Loss on sale of old machinery. Since it is loss, so you have to add here. That is how much? 40,000. Next, after that, transfer to statement of profit and loss account. During the year, inventories, that is current asset, is decreased. So you have to add. So decrease in inventories or decrease in current asset. Third is decrease in inventories. That is current asset, decrease in current asset. So you have to add here. So how much? 50,000. Again, next is current liabilities were decreased. So decrease in current liability, 30,000. Fourth is decrease in current liabilities. Decrease in current liability. So you have to minus, that is minus 30,000. So we are done with this. Now total. So how much it is? 4 lakh plus 1 lakh, 5 lakh. 5 lakh plus 40,000, 5 lakh 40,000. 5 lakh 40 plus 50. That is 5 lakh 90,000. So once again we shall calculate 5 lakh 40,000 plus 50,000 minus 30,000. So it will be 5 lakh 60,000. 5 lakh 60,000. Yes, so 5 lakh 60,000. So the answer is in positive. So how do you write? Cash inflow. Now this is inflow. Cash inflow from operating activities. Cash inflow from operating activities, 5 lakh 60,000. So hope you are clear about it. This is a simple problem. They'll ask you for 6 marks. Now moving on to the next one. The following is a statement of profit and loss of Moon Limited as on 31st/3/2019. So they have given us revenue from operation. So this is a statement of profit and loss. Revenue from operation, expenses, cost of material consumed, purchases, other expenses, total expenses. So we want this. Profit before tax, that is 1 lakh. Next, they have given trade receivable decreased. Okay, so trade receivable, current asset decreased. So what you have to do? Add. Current assets have decreased by rupees 20,000 during the year. Trade receivable is a current asset. Decreased means what? You have to add. Prepaid expenses. So prepaid expenses is what? Prepaid expenses is an asset. Okay, so prepaid expenses is an asset. So current asset. So it has increased. So current assets have increased. So what you have to do? Minus. Current assets have increased. So you have to minus. Trade payable increased. So current liability have increased. So you have to add. So current liability have increased. Trade payable have increased by 10,000 during the year. So add. Outstanding expenses. So outstanding expenses is current liability once again. So it has increased. So once again it has increased. So you have to add. Next. Other expenses. Other expenses include depreciation. So depreciation, what you have to do? You have to add depreciation. Correct? Depreciation 20,000. Compute net cash flow from operations for the year ended 31st/3/2019 by the indirect method. So how do you start with? So the name of the company is Moon Limited. So you have to write the heading Moon Limited. Cash flow statement. cash flow statement from operating activities. Or you can write cash flow statement for the year ending. Okay, so we shall see net profit before tax. Net profit before tax. So net profit before tax is 1 lakh. Then trade receivable decreased. Decrease in trade receivable 20,000. So first one is decrease in trade receivable. Decrease in trade receivable. So it is what? Current asset. Decrease in current asset. So what you have to do? You have to add how much? Plus 20,000. Next, prepaid expenses increased. So outstanding expenses liability. So prepaid expenses is an asset. So increase in prepaid expenses. Increase in prepaid expenses. So prepaid expenses is current asset. So increase it is. So I have to minus. It is minus 4,000. Next one, trade payable increased. Increase in trade payable. Increase in trade payable. So trade payable is current liability. So it has increased. So I have to add 10,000 plus 10,000. Next, outstanding expenses. Outstanding expenses is current liability. Increase in current liability. So increase in outstanding expenses. Increase in outstanding expenses. So it is a current liability. Increase in current liability. So I have to add how much? 1,000 plus 1,000. Next, other expenses includes depreciation. So depreciation, what you have to do? Add. So fifth one, depreciation. Depreciation during the year. Depreciation during the year. So I have to add 20,000. So how many are there? That is 5. So we have recorded all the 5. So they have asked us to calculate cash flow statement in operating activities. So let us total now. That is 1 lakh plus 20,000, 1 lakh 20, 1 lakh 30, 1 lakh 50, 1 lakh 51,000 minus 4,000. 1 lakh 51,000 minus 4,000. So it will be 1 lakh 47,000. So let us recheck once again. 1 lakh plus 20, 1 lakh 20,000 plus 10, 1 lakh 30,000 plus 20, 1 lakh 50,000, 1 lakh 51,000 minus 4,000. 1 lakh 51,000 minus 4,000. So it will be 1 lakh 47,000. The amount is in positive. So it is cash inflow. Cash inflow from operating activities. Cash inflow from operating activities. So hope you are clear. This is also a question paper problem where you can easily solve. Okay, so this is about your cash flow statement from operating activities. Now moving on to the next one. So this is also a 6 marks problem. Compute cash flow from operations from the following information. So they have given us a profit, that is 20,000, after providing a depreciation. So what do we do with depreciation? So I have to add depreciation. The current assets and current liabilities of the business for the year ending 31st/3/2022 and 23 were as follows. Now let us see whether it has increased or decreased. So trade receivable, earlier it was 10,000 in 2022. In 2023 it has increased to 20,000. So how much it has increased? Increase in 10,000. So increase in current asset. Increase in current asset. What you have to do? minus. So minus how much? 10,000. Trade payable, earlier it was 15,000, now it is 5,000. In the sense, decreased. So decreased to what extent? Decreased in 10,000. So decrease in current liabilities. So you have to minus. Decrease in current liability minus. Inventories is an current asset. Earlier it was 10,000, now it is 20,000. So increased to the extent of 10,000. So that is current asset. So when the current assets are increased, you have to minus. Prepaid expenses. Prepaid expenses is once again an asset. So earlier it was 2,000, now it is 3,000. So increase in asset, correct? So to the extent of 1,000. So 1,000 it has increased. So this is current asset. So what you have to do? Increase in current asset minus. So hope you are clear. Once again I will repeat. Trade receivable is an current asset. So 10,000 it has increased. Increase in current asset you have to minus 10,000. Trade payable is current liability. It has decreased. Okay. So decrease in current liability minus 10,000. Inventories is a current asset. It has increased by 10,000. You have to minus. Prepaid expenses. So prepaid expenses is what? It is an asset. Earlier it was 2,000, now it is 3,000. So 1,000 it has increased. So increase in asset we have to minus. So we shall prepare the cash flow statement. So we'll write the heading. That is, they have not given the name of the firm here. So cash flow from operating activities. So we'll write the heading here. Cash flow from operating activities. Now, let's take the profit for the year. That is rupees 20,000. Profit for the year. Rupees 20,000. Okay. Next we have depreciation. So depreciation, what you have to do? Add. So first is depreciation. So depreciation is 5,000. Add 5,000. Next what you have? The current assets and liabilities they have given. So we shall see with the trade receivable. So increase in trade receivable. Increase in trade receivable, that is current asset. So it has increased. So minus 10,000. So how much it has increased? 10,000. You have to take the difference amount. Next, trade payable. Again it has decreased. Decrease in trade payable. Decrease in trade payable. So decrease in current liability. So current liability decreased. So minus 10,000. Minus 10,000. Next, inventories. Inventories it has increased. So increase in inventories. Increase in inventories. So that is increase in current asset. So I have to minus how much? 10,000. So 10,000 it has increased. Next, prepaid expenses. So it is also an asset. Increase in prepaid expenses. Increase in prepaid expenses, that is current asset. So what you have to do? Minus 1,000 it has increased. So you have to minus. Now you are done with this all the transactions. So now we have to total here 20,000 plus 5,000, 25,000. 25,000 minus, so 10, 20, 30, 31,000 minus 31,000. So it will be minus 6,000. Once again we shall see 20 plus 5, 25,000. 25,000 minus 31,000. 25,000 minus 31,000, it will be minus 6,000. So it is a negative. So it is cash outflow. Cash outflow from operating activities. Cash outflow from operating activities. So this is in the negative, so it is cash outflow from operating activities. So hope you are clear. Whatever the problem they have given, you have to solve like this, so that if it is positive, then it is cash inflow from operating activities. If it is negative, then it is cash outflow from operating activities. So this is about the cash flow statement from operating activities. Now in my next session, I am going to discuss about investing activities. Let us see what is this investing activities, and we shall solve problems on investing activities. This is also easy, just you have to know how to add as well as which one to add and which one to deduct. So my dear students, hope you have understood today's session. See you all in my next session with a new topic. Till then, take care. Thank you.